My brother smashed a chair into my leg at dinner, and my parents took his side. I used to think the worst pain in the world was a broken bone. I was wrong. The worst pain is sitting on the cold kitchen floor, clutching your shattered leg while your parents laugh. And the person who broke it. Your brother. The golden child. My name is Ava Reynolds. I'm 27 years old. I have a master's degree, a stable marketing job in Chicago, and until recently, I still believed in family loyalty. My brother Ethan is 30. Unemployed, short-tempered, still living in our parents' suburban Illinois home. And yet, he could do no wrong. Growing up, the favoritism wasn't subtle. It was engraved into the walls of our house. When Ethan failed algebra, Mom said, "Math just isn't his strength." When I got a 98 instead of 100, Dad asked, "What happened to the other 2 points?" When Ethan wrecked Dad's car at 19, it was boys being boys. When I came home 10 minutes past curfew at 17, I was grounded for a month. I learned early, Ethan was protected. I was expected. That Sunday dinner started like every other one. Mom insisted I drive in from Chicago at least twice a month. "Family dinners are important," she'd say. "One day we won't be here." I wish she had been right about that. The house smelled like roasted chicken and rosemary potatoes. The same heavy oak table we'd used since childhood sat under the chandelier. Ethan was already there, sprawled in Dad's chair like he owned the place. He didn't work, but somehow he always had new sneakers. I kissed Mom's cheek. She barely looked up from the gravy. Dad nodded at me, but didn't get up. Ethan smirked. "You still driving that boring little Honda?" he asked. "Yes," I said calmly. "Thought with that big corporate job you'd upgrade." I ignored him. I'd learned that silence irritated him more than arguments. But that night, something was different. There was tension in the air. Dad cleared his throat halfway through dinner. "We've been thinking," he said slowly, "about the house." I froze. The house was worth at least $650,000 now. Prime location, paid off. Mom smiled at Ethan. "We're putting it in his name." I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" Ethan leaned back like he'd just won a trophy. "It's just practical," Mom said quickly. "He's going to start a business soon." "A business?" I asked. Ethan had tried 3 businesses before: a sneaker resale scheme, a crypto consulting idea, a failed food truck. All funded by my parents. Dad's voice hardened. "He needs stability." "And I do," I asked quietly. "You're independent," Mom replied. "You'll be fine." There it was. "You'll be fine." The phrase they used every time they gave him something and handed me nothing. I felt heat rise in my chest. So the house just goes to him. Dad set down his fork. "Don't start." "I'm not starting anything. I'm asking." Ethan laughed. "You don't even live here, Ava. Why do you care?" "Because I grew up here. Because I mowed this lawn. Because I helped pay their property taxes when Dad got laid off in 2020. But I didn't say that. Instead, I said something worse. "You're 30, Ethan. When are you going to stand on your own?" The room went silent. His jaw tightened. "Say that again." I should have stopped. I didn't. "When are you going to stop leeching off them?" Mom gasped. Dad slammed his fist on the table. And Ethan stood up. The chair screeched loudly against hardwood. I thought he was going to yell. I thought he was going to throw a plate. I didn't think. He grabbed the heavy wooden dining chair beside him. And before my brain could process what was happening, he swung it. The impact exploded against my shin. I heard the crack before I felt the pain. A sickening, hollow snap. Then the pain hit. White-hot, blinding. I collapsed off my chair, screaming. The room spun. I looked down. My leg was bent wrong. Wrong. I was shaking. Crying. Screaming. And Ethan. He dropped the chair. "Don't disrespect me," he said. Like that justified it. Mom rushed, not to me. To him. "Ethan, oh my God, what did you do?" But her hands were on his shoulders. Dad stood frozen. I was on the floor. "I think it's broken," I gasped. Dad finally looked down. "You shouldn't provoke him," he muttered. Provoke him? I stared at him in disbelief. My own father. "You always push his buttons," Mom added. Push his buttons. My bone was shattered. And they were defending him. Ethan ran his hands through his hair. "She started it. Started it." I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. The pain was unbearable, but the betrayal. That was worse. Finally, Dad called 911. The paramedics arrived within minutes. As they lifted me onto the stretcher, I caught one last glimpse of my family. Mom hugging Ethan. Dad whispering to him. No one holding my hand. No one apologizing. No one saying they'd make it right. At the hospital, the X-rays confirmed it. Compound fracture. Surgery required. 8 screws, a titanium rod. 6 months of physical therapy. The doctor asked gently, "What happened?" I hesitated. I looked at my phone. No missed calls from Mom. No texts. I swallowed. My brother lost his temper. The doctor's expression darkened. "Do you want to press charges?" The question hung in the air. Press charges. Against family. I closed my eyes. And for the first time in my life, I considered it. That night, lying in a hospital bed alone, I replayed everything. The favoritism. The gaslighting. The way they'd blamed me. Something inside me shifted. This wasn't just about a broken leg. It was about years of being the invisible daughter. And as I stared at the sterile white ceiling, one thing became crystal clear. They chose him. So now, I would choose myself. And I would make sure they regretted ever laughing while I lay broken at their feet. The hospital room was quiet the morning after surgery. Too quiet. My phone buzzed once. "Mom, how are you feeling?" That was it. No apology. No, "we're coming." No accountability. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. "The doctor says I'll need 6 months of rehab. Surgery cost is estimated at $48,000 before insurance." 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally, insurance will cover most of it. Not, "we'll take care of it." Not, "Ethan will pay." Just logistics. That was the moment I decided. If they wanted to treat it like paperwork, I'd give them paperwork. The police report. The officer who came by that afternoon was calm and direct. "Do you want to file a formal complaint?" I remembered my father's words. "You shouldn't provoke him." I remembered my mother holding Ethan while I screamed. "Yes," I said. And just like that, it began. Ethan's arrest. They arrested him 2 days later. I didn't go. But Dad called me screaming. "What have you done?" "What he did to me." I replied evenly. "You're ruining his life. He broke my leg. It was an accident." He said, "Don't disrespect me," before he swung the chair. Silence. Then, "You're tearing this family apart." I laughed softly. "No, Dad, that happened Sunday night." The twist they didn't expect. Here, what my parents forgot. I work in corporate strategy. I read contracts for a living. And in 2020, when Dad got laid off during the pandemic, guess who quietly transferred $30,000 to help cover property taxes and mortgage arrears? Me. I had the bank records. And I had the memo line. Family home support, repayable. Dad had texted, We'll pay you back when things stabilize. They never did. So while Ethan was out on bail, I hired an attorney. Not just for assault, for civil damages, medical costs, lost wages, pain and suffering, and repayment of the $30,000 loan. Total claim, $182,000. Court day. Ethan looked smaller in a suit. Less confident. Less golden. Mom wouldn't look at me. Dad looked furious. Their lawyer tried to argue it was mutual escalation. The prosecutor showed the hospital photos, the x-rays, the titanium rod, the paramedics' testimony, and then security camera footage from the dining room. Yes, they forgot about the camera Dad installed after a package theft. Clear as day. Me sitting. Ethan standing. Ethan lifting the chair. Ethan swinging. No physical threat from me. No movement toward him. Just words. The courtroom was silent. Even Mom looked shaken. The settlement. Ethan's public defender pulled him aside. An hour later, their lawyer approached mine. They wanted to settle. Criminal charge reduced to aggravated assault probation. Mandatory anger management. Restitution paid in full. Civil claim settled at $165,000. And here was the best part. To pay it, my parents had to refinance the house. The same house they'd planned to gift Ethan. The same house they said I didn't deserve. I didn't smile in court. But inside, I felt something settle. Not revenge. Balance. The call that changed everything. 2 weeks later, Mom called again. This time her voice was softer. "You've made your point," she said. "No," I corrected gently. "I made a boundary. He's struggling. So did I on the floor." Silence. Then she whispered something I never expected. "We should have stopped him." Yes, they should have. But damage doesn't disappear with late apologies. "I hope he gets help," I said, "but I won't be coming to Sunday dinners anymore." Dad never called. 6 months later, physical therapy was brutal. Learning to walk without crutches felt like learning to exist again. But with the settlement money, I did something symbolic. I put a down payment on my own condo in Chicago. No co-signers. No family help. Just me. The closing day felt better than graduation. Better than any promotion. Because this time, no one could take it away. One final encounter. I saw Ethan once more. At a grocery store near my new place. He looked thinner. Humbled. He approached slowly. "I messed up," he said. I studied him carefully. "Yeah," I replied. "I was angry. You were right about me." That surprised me. "I'm in therapy," he added quietly. I nodded. "That's good." There was a long pause. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said. "Good," I answered honestly. But I didn't feel hatred anymore. Just distance. And distance is powerful. The real revenge. People think revenge is dramatic. It's not. It's quiet. It's building a life so stable that no one can shake it with a chair. It's watching the golden child learn that consequences exist. It's knowing that when they chose him, you chose yourself. 1 year later, the house was sold. Refinancing failed. Property taxes were too high. Ethan moved into a small apartment. Mom sent me a holiday card. No guilt trips. No manipulation. Just, "We hope you're happy." For the first time in my life, I was. Not because my brother suffered. Not because my parents struggled. But because I finally understood something. Family is not a free pass for abuse. And silence is not loyalty. When I walk now, There's a faint ache in cold weather. A reminder. But it doesn't hurt the way it used to. Because bones heal. And so do boundaries. The end.